Welcome to the HAYVN Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders, owners, and professionals are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Hear from industry experts on everything from marketing, leadership, financing, and more. Brought to you by HAYVN, a co-working space where you can connect, create, and get stuff done.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the HAYVN Hubcast. I'm your host, Nancy Sheed, and we are going to be hearing today from Emelie Calbick. Emelie, welcome to the HAYVN Hubcast.
Thank you.
Emelie is coming to us in her current role as co-founder of Stage 2 Startups. It's an organization dedicated to helping individuals transform their lives and work experiences into successful businesses. Before we dive into that, though, I would like to Emelie, just say, let's go back. You have not always been in the startup world. You have a very impressive background in corporate America, so to speak. And can you take us back to sort of how you got started in your career journey, as it were?
Yeah, I think I had a very typical journey for many people of spending the early career in the corporate world. I spent my time at Fortune 50 financial services organizations where I learned a lot and had a great time progressing through various jobs there. But at a certain point, I, like many other people, started to think there might be something more and exciting to do with my work career than being a cog in a very large organization. And I'm not unusual. I think research has shown that 29% of business owners said that their biggest motivation for starting a business was that they were ready to be their own boss. And another 17% said that they were unhappy with their corporate careers. So it's pretty typical at a certain point where people say, I could do more with my skills. And that's how I felt. I was really hitting the point saying, really? Am I going to redo the same thing over and over again? And I was very lucky that two of my former American Express colleagues had just started a business and asked me to join them. And it is a location services tech. It was a tech startup with a location-based service. And it was just so exhilarating. It was really the first time where you could get up in the morning and go, wow, every decision I make is really important because it's going to determine whether we make money or we don't make money. You know, you just would sit there and you're in uncharted territory of really trying to figure it out, trying different things, learning to pivot, learning to step back and reevaluate. And we did that for about 3 years. And then unfortunately, one of our co-founders became ill and we opted to sell that company and we sold it to Destiny, another location-based service. After that, having sold that, I said, well, now what do I want to do? I'm not ready to just sit back and relax. And I had the good fortune of another former colleague, Betty Wong, approaching me about starting up this business, which is really focused on helping the mature, experienced worker pursue the same path of being able to start their own business. And that's where we are today.
So it's the, I did it, let me show you how to do it. So you can cut through all of the, maybe a lot of the pieces and steps and hills and challenges that you may have had to go through or what you're seeing people go through, which is such a gift. So I also love hearing from you, Emelie, how it was like you went from corporate, then you went to a startup, but you also got to see a startup grow, right? And so, and then you kind of keep going forward and then coming, I want to say backwards, but seeing how to sort of do it again or do it differently or help others do it differently. You and I were speaking earlier, if you stay in corporate America, or if you're in corporate America, you kind of look at us on the other side like, oh, entrepreneurs, what are you? You're a different kind of breed. Now that you've done it, how do you sort of talk to people and say, come over to this, it's not so crazy on this side? What's that conversation look like for you?
Well, I think anybody who is eager to start their own business really has to spend some time to evaluate themselves. In fact, In our book, From Passion to Profit, the journey of the 5 practical steps to launch your business, I think one of the key learnings was the talking to 20 entrepreneurs, as well as my own experience. You have to know yourself. You have to take that time to reflect on your passion for the idea of launching your business. You've got to decide, do I want to get up and do this every single day? I think a great experience is, point is like, you might like to bake. You might say, this is a great passion of mine. But then you have to say, do I want to get up at 5 a.m. every day to bake?
Mm.
And if the answer is yes, great. You've probably passed that first hurdle that, yes, I'm kind of ready to do this. You also have to say, well, how comfortable am I taking risks? Or how comfortable am I doing something alone? Do I need a partner? Am I more comfortable with that? What are my core skills? What are my skills gaps? You really have to go through that process and think it through. Take that time up front, and then you're much better positioned to make that jump when you're ready.
And when you were making that jump, did you go through that process, or is that what you realized are the really important questions that one needs to ask themselves? And in talking to the 20 entrepreneurs for your book, is that how that framework evolved in your conversations with these 20 entrepreneurs?
Yes, it's a combination of personal experience, but it is a common theme that whenever I talk to these individuals, that was always a common step. I mean, you have to find a point where you're saying, I'm ready to take that leap. And I think every entrepreneur will tell you that you're not going to be 100% certain. It is going to be a leap of faith. There is no question. But you can be as prepared as possible
Mm.
to take that leap of faith.
Mm.
And I had the good fortune that I spent a lot of time talking to my colleagues before I said, yes, I'll join them. I got a sense of, well, what are you doing? Do I believe in that product? Do I think there's a market for it? Do I want to work with these people?
Mm.
You have to sit down with them every single day and be working with them. And if you don't, have a common vision and a common passion, and if you don't really want to like hanging out with each other, then that's probably not a good fit. So you do need to have those kinds of thoughts and conversations, particularly if you're in a partner. You have to make sure. It's another thing that comes up a lot, I have to say, in the conversation. You have to have that dialogue if you have a partner up front to make sure you are on the same page. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot make assumptions. And I think sometimes people enter it thinking they are in agreement, and then they're deep into it and they go, oh, wait, maybe I'm not in agreement. And in fact, we've created a whole seminar on how to avoid conflicts with your business partners. And that was the key thing. You had those conversations up front, not when you're in a crisis.
I love that. And that question of partnering or not partnering, I know comes up in every situation because you don't want to be alone, but in the same vein, does taking on the partner mean that there's more work versus less or working smarter? That then leads me to the next question that you mentioned was, what are your skills and what are the gaps in the skills? In a lot of situations, you hope that the partner situation is complementary. I would assume that's part of the dialogue, but how does an entrepreneur decide, do they have great self-knowledge about what their skills are or their gaps? Or do you help them realize that? Or are there certain questions? Or, I know there are a gazillion assessments out there. How do you point them into figuring that out?
Well, you have to be very honest with yourself.
Hmm.
We always encourage you do a skill inventory, but you can't just rely on yourself. We encourage you to talk to your colleagues, talk to your family, talk to friends, ask them to be brutally honest with you as you go through that skill assessment, because they'll have insights that you may not realize. You may feel that you are not a good public speaker, and then you find out your friends and colleagues go, oh, we so love it when you get up and you share or you talk. So those are important things just to go through, that you do have to do a skill assessment. I don't think I would encourage, there's such a thing as analysis paralysis. You cannot get stuck on this. You can't get stuck on this. Like I said, and everybody will tell you, you will never have 100% certainty before you make this leap.
Mm.
All you can do is be as prepared as possible.
Well, and I also found in a startup, there's so, you know, one takes on so many roles as well. They can't go in and say, I only can do this, this, and this, because in startup bootstrap world, it's also sometimes you got to try things and figure them out or dip a toe in the water. So that's also very tricky. Emelie, back to your book. Was it a chicken or the egg situation for you? Was it a, I want to learn more from other people's experiences, so let me go and interview and research? And then, aha, well, I have this content. It's a book. Or was it a, I'm working with people, I'm seeing these things, let me go out and test some of my theories in conversations, or a little bit of both? I just always love hearing people's book journeys.
Yeah, I was a little bit of both. When we started this business, stage two startups, was we ran events, networking events, educational events, and you meet a lot of people. And it's always exciting to hear what people are working on and what they're thinking about and what their challenges are. That actually led me to create a blog, and I regularly interviewed people for that blog because we thought it was important to share with our community what people were experiencing and learning and going through to show that you're not alone on that journey. And then we said, these stories are just so compelling, so interesting. There are common themes here. I said, let's bring it into a book and really begin to take all that and say, here's the way the book is structured. It is like these 5 key steps that everybody should consider, ranging from first identify your passion,
Mm,
spend time on your reflection, do your research, make sure there's a market. And we said these commonalities, let's share these core steps everybody takes, as well as the stories of how people did it. Because, for example, when you say do your research, everybody's first reaction is, well, okay, I do my Google research. Well, we found fascinating stories. There was one person, Todd, who wanted to start a laundromat because he'd seen an empty storefront. He was ready to start a business. He goes, that's perfect for a laundromat. But before he did that, he spent a lot of time. His research was really bootstraps. He went and he spent time with other laundromat owners. He spent time standing on the street corner to see how many people walked by that storefront every single
mm,
day. And based on that, he could now get a sense of I'm feeling more comfortable about taking this leap. So there's just different ways that you can begin to get your arms around your business potential, your business idea, and your readiness to make the move. And we want to share that. It's all the ways that you can make yourself prepared. We had one woman who started her own animal shelter. But she didn't just go out one day and say, I want to start an animal shelter. She was a finance person at a very large financial services company. She continued working at that job and volunteered for well over a year at an animal shelter and spent time in her free time to learn every aspect of what it took to run an animal shelter. And it was time consuming. She had to give up a lot of things, but she had the luxury of she was still doing her job and had all this time to really learn about that industry and what would it need to be done and the types of resources she would need to be successful at running her shelter. And today she has her own shelter, primarily helping older animals get adopted
mm,
and doing a great job saving animals from puppy mills.
mm. I love that. And what also is so, I don't know, you providing the framework and the question, but also is, I think our society has gotten a little blindsided or a little distracted or maybe even not even believing you start up, you're an instant success, you get 1 million followers, and that's what success looks like, right? And people say, I didn't mean to do this. I just did it and became successful, right? And so I appreciate how you're sharing the work and the sort of testing the ideas and the theories and the passion that goes on behind it that I think a lot of people forget is part of the journey, right?
Right. It's work. It's work. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. And again, I mean, it's work, but I'm sure she enjoyed her time at the shelters or
Mhm.
the researching. But I think it's not the overnight success story is typically very rarely overnight if you've been part of the journey with the entrepreneur. Are you finding with the demographic that you're working with and the companies they're choosing, are there certain types of businesses that are better suited, or are we across the board with sort of, in this day and age, anything can work. It's not necessarily service based or product based, or I'm just curious sort of what the landscape looks like these days.
It is anything everywhere. It's amazing. We've talked to entrepreneurs who have been in high-tech industries. One woman, launched her own financial product. And then you have really everyday businesses like the laundromat or the 80-year-old who started her food business. So people can do anything, anywhere. And I think it's just interesting, everybody goes, oh, tech, you have to be 20 to be successful in tech. Well, that's really not true. Researchers have found that on average, the startup founder is 45 years old.
Mm.
And that includes, yes, technology. They are not all those, the Zuckerbergs or the Facebooks. They are all ages.
Mm.
And the exciting thing is not only are really the average age of people starting businesses in their midlife, they also tend to be much more successful than people who are trying to start businesses earlier in their career. They're twice as likely to be in business 5 years later than those young startup founders. And it's probably based because they have much more experience, they have more knowledge, they have broad networks they can rely on. And of course, they probably have a little more financial resources to
Mm.
fall back on. But there's a lot of advantages that the older entrepreneur has, which is witnessed by just the fact that more startups are started by that age cohort.
Mm. I love this optimism that you're bringing in. I mean, optimism as well as just facts about who's more successful and why being at a certain age and stage is beneficial. Is there some untraining that you have to do? Do you find when somebody comes out of corporate and they may have the maverick spirit, but is there a little bit of like, well, this is the way corporate does it, but over here in entrepreneur world, what does that look like? I'm just curious in this day and age as well.
Really good point. I mean, people have to be aware that there is a transition from the corporate world to that rough and tumble startup. I mean, let's face it, in the corporate world, you'd say, oh, somebody should do X. And then you realize, oh, I guess that's me.
I love it.
You have to really unlearn things. I have to admit, when I came out, I had all these, sophisticated platforms I was working on. They're huge. And then you come back to the corporate world and go, oh gosh, I guess I have to learn how to use Google Docs. I have to, who knew?
I get it.
I have to figure out how to set up my social media accounts. Yeah, it's a little bit of a shock of the system. It's also like the only person that's going to hold you accountable is you.
Mm,
Nobody's going to yell at you if you miss the deadline. It's you are going to, you have to yell at yourself. And you
exactly.
have to be comfortable now to trust your decisions. You can't turn to your boss and go, oh, is this a good idea or not? You have to be able to trust your decisions now. And you're going to, you know what? It is a transition, but you find out, I'll tell this to you, you're going to find out wow, I can figure out Google Docs. I can figure out how to do an Excel spreadsheet. And guess what? I'm not so dumb. I really can make good decisions.
Mm, mm. And maybe that's also been something that's been burning them for quite some time, that they haven't been able to flex that muscle, right?
Right.
Being a cog. Emily, thank you so much for sharing. I mean, I love the perspective that you bring personally and that you've brought with the people that you've worked with and with your book. If people want to learn more, they might be on the beginning of this journey or get your book to sort of start figuring out the 5 steps. What's the best way to connect with you?
They can always go to stage2startups.com. There they can find information about our books, our upcoming events on our calendar, and they can register and purchase there. And they can fill out the contact form if they want to reach out and get more information from us.
Okay, we will do that. Well, thank you for your time. Watch this space for more entrepreneurial journeys. And Emily, it's so nice of you to be part of the HAYVN community and helping other entrepreneurs as we all grow and succeed.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun talking with you today.
And that's another HAYVN Hubcast. Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, please leave us a review, share this with others, and make sure you're a subscriber.
Thanks for listening to the HAYVN Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders and owners are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. HAYVN is a co-working space and virtual community located in the heart of Fairfield County, Connecticut. HAYVN is a hub for business owners and professionals to connect, create, and get stuff done. Find out more about the HAYVN community online at hayvn.com. That's HAYVN.com. HAYVN Hubcast is produced by Sound Advice Strategies.